something immense breaks down without any physical object breaking. Officially, everything keeps working, even though a vital element has just slipped out of the frame. When the phone of Marco Rainsalu, a network engineer in Tallinn, starts vibrating without stopping, he thinks it's a local outage. When he opens his screen, he sees a country disappear. Marco, who works for a major telecom operator, is in the server room. The air is cold, dry, saturated with beeps. His hands slide from one keyboard to another. Red curves rise, max out, freeze. Not a single cable has burned, not a single building has exploded. Yet banks, ministries, and media outlets are going down one after another. And what he thought was his country's greatest strength suddenly becomes its Achilles heel. The apparent calm of the hardware contrasts with the speed of this tipping point. For years, Marco has been monitoring the same traffic, the same spikes, the same small daily incidents. But that April evening in 2007, something is off. The screens display requests that make no sense, millions of simultaneous calls to the same sites, the same addresses. At first, he thinks it's a bug. Then he sees the origins of the connections, scattered across the world map. Thousands of machines everywhere, a distributed attack, a designed attack. And it all starts at the precise moment when excavators, a few streets away, begin dismantling a bronze monument that Marco saw all through his childhood, never imagining it could trigger a nationwide digital offensive. On his screens, government sites disappear. News portals blink, inaccessible. Then, more serious, the first banks. Marco's colleagues run from rack to rack, rerouting traffic, closing ports. In the middle of this controlled chaos, one question keeps looping in his head. Who holds the switch to this digital country he thought was indestructible? Hypothesis A, the simplest one. A big criminal botnet, a mesh of zombie computers, rented to the highest bidder on shady forums. Someone might have taken advantage of the turmoil around the relocated monument to launch a massive extortion attack. Paralyzing banks, a parliament, media outlets is a good way to extort money or make a name in hacker circles. The signs almost fit. The traffic looks like classic DDoS. Machines all over the world. Automated scripts. No destruction, just saturation. Internal emails talk about organized crime. The first public communications remain cautious, technical, almost cold. Marco clings to this. A greedy gang, a known pattern, tried and tested defense routines. This hypothesis blows up when his superiors order him to abruptly cut off part of the country's international connections. Because no criminal gang keeps hammering away, week after week, at the sites of a small state when there isn't a single channel for negotiation, not a single ransom demand, not a single message. The doubt changes nature. Hypothesis B, more twisted. A spontaneous political movement, but without a single leader. Marco keeps hearing a word in the corridors. Patriots. Russian-speaking internet users, fired up by the images of the displaced monument, organizing on forums, in chats, on blogs. A real anger, fueled by foreign TV channels, transformed into coordinated attacks. On the screens, everything could suggest this. Basic scripts shared online. Timetables that match evenings in certain time zones. Stronger waves after certain TV reports on the sacrilege committed in Tallinn. Neighboring authorities deny any state involvement, speak of isolated individuals, insist on the uncontrollable nature of the internet. In the artificial calm of the server room, Marco is willing to believe it. It would be almost reassuring. A chaotic surge, a digital crowd without a head, that always ends up tiring. This view flips the morning he sees the graphs syncing like a metronome. These are no longer disordered waves. These are clean, calibrated bursts that hit Parliament, the biggest banks, the main newspapers at the same time. The attack window shrinks, the precision increases. The defenses put in place the day before are bypassed the very next day, as if someone were reading the countermeasures live. It's no longer a crowd, it's a tuned firing range. Hypothesis C, the one Marco only dares to formulate in a low voice, on his way home at night, when the city is still shaken by the riots. What if everything were reversed? What if the crowd were only the screen? Sincere patriots, yes, but used as a smokescreen, while higher up, experienced teams test the resilience of a country that has put almost all its administration, its banks, its identity on the network. What seems spontaneous might be nothing but set dressing. Then another thought, sharper, forces itself in. What if what matters is not who is attacking, but what their own digital model reveals about them under pressure? Marco spends his nights under harsh neon lights, his eyes burned by screens that are too bright. The constant noise of the fans drills into his temples. Outside, the city still bears the marks of shattered windows, looted shop fronts, overturned cars. Inside, everything plays out without light, without smoke, without sirens. And yet, a brutal blockage rises up, an invisible wall he keeps running into. This wall is not technical. Firewalls, he knows them. Routers, he knows how to reconfigure them under pressure. The bandwidth, he can distribute it, sacrifice certain services to save others. The wall comes from elsewhere. It comes from the fact that, suddenly, every data packet crossing his network becomes a political issue. When they decide to massively filter traffic coming from certain regions, his fingers hesitate. He knows that behind the malicious flows, there are also ordinary users, families, small businesses, students who never asked for any of this. To block is to cut them off from the country. Not to block is to let the attack in. Between two command lines, Marco sees a border taking shape that is anything but virtual. Time stretches. At the same moment, a few kilometers away, in front of a monument moved under police surveillance, cameras are rolling. Some foreign media film flowers, tearful faces, signs in Russian. These images are replayed on a loop. In the server room, screenshots of these reports circulate alongside traffic graphs. One minister asks for guarantees that official sites remain accessible from the right countries. Another, on the contrary, demands that the circle be tightened, that our own be protected first. Marco does not see only IPs and ports. He sees through them the fracture lines of his own country. He thinks of his Russian-speaking neighbors, of his colleagues who have family on the other side of the border. He knows that, for some, the monument is not just a statue, it is a piece of memory. Yet, at every crisis meeting, the pressure mounts to present the suspicious flows as a homogeneous external threat. The wall is this impossibility of separating the cable from politics. Every technical decision becomes charged with history. When they temporarily cut certain international links to ease the load, Marco gets a call from an expatriate friend who can no longer access his online accounts. He has no simple answer to give him. His hands tremble as he holds the phone, not because of fatigue, but because for the first time, he physically feels the weight of his choices on lives he knows. In the meetings, the terms change. They no longer talk only about outages or degraded services. They begin to use words like aggression, coordinated attack, hostile campaign. Some officials want to label what is happening as war. Others hold back, reminding everyone that no cable has been cut, that no hospital has been plunged into darkness. Marco listens, sitting at the back of the room, his hands resting on his laptop. He no longer really knows in which category to place what he is seeing. The silence of the hallway after these meetings contrasts with the intensity of the screens. The wall is also the solitude that settles into repetitive gestures. Refresh dashboards, adjust filters, respond to emergency calls from banks whose sites go down right at peak payment time. Hear the barely contained panic in a director's voice asking him, "How much longer?" and having to answer in hours, not in minutes. One night, as the attack spikes surge again, Marco bangs his knee against the corner of a metal rack. The pain is sharp, cutting. He does not stop. Blood slowly stains the bottom of his pants. This paltry cut becomes, for him, the most concrete proof of a war that officially has no battlefield. Around him, the instructions grow harsher. Absolute priority to state institutions, then to major banks. The smaller players, associative sites, certain local media, end up sidelined, sometimes completely inaccessible. Marco watches this hierarchy being put in place, in a rush, in defiance of all the usual proclamations about equal access to digital technology. He thought he was working for a neutral network, a simple carrier of data. The wall closes in when he realizes that his infrastructure has, in just a few days, become a strategic instrument, a filter that decides who speaks and who remains silent. One question haunts him as he walks through the streets of Tallinn at dawn, eyes burning, passing by still shattered shop windows. Where does his job end? Where does something else begin? He knows he cannot stay forever in this gray area. But for now, the wall does not move. He has to keep typing commands, keep accepting that a line of code can redraw who is, or is not, part of the connected country he had until then found so simple to define. When the wave recedes, Marco reads the reports that begin to circulate. Researchers, military officers, legal experts. On one point, they agree. What struck his country looks like a full-scale test of the limits of a digital state. Others, more cautious, insist on the lack of irrefutable public proof of direct involvement by a foreign government, while noting that the timing of the attacks with the crisis around the monument cannot be dismissed as simple coincidence. What they refuse to state clearly is how far a state can, or wants to, go in responding to a shock that has neither missiles nor explosions, but that lays bare the possibility of bringing an entire country to its knees by touching nothing but its flows. Months go by. Online life resumes. Sites load again, transfers go through, digital identities work. For many, the episode becomes a blurred memory, a giant outage associated with old images of protests in front of a relocated monument. For Marco, nothing has gone back to normal. He continues to work in the same room, under the same neon lights. The alerts have calmed down, the graphs have flattened. At first glance, his country has proven the strength of its digital gamble. No hospital stopped functioning, no dam broke, no election was canceled. Official speeches talk about resilience, success, a model to be reinforced. He is even sometimes asked, in internal conferences, to present what he experienced as a victory story. But inwardly, that narrative no longer holds. What he believed to be true, before, rested on a simple idea. The more digitized the country became, the more protected it would be. Multiplying redundancies, distributing services, connecting administrations, banks, policyholders. All this was supposed to form a natural shield. A network too dispersed to be truly paralyzed. A society so accustomed to digital technology that it would become almost insensitive to shocks. The attack showed him something else. It did not destroy the infrastructure. It struck at trust. He remembers those customers unable for hours to pay online. Those citizens who could no longer access official sites just as they were looking for reliable information. Those political leaders who, to keep control, ordered entire chunks of international traffic to be cut off. It is not a firewall that impressed him the most, but that moment when the instinctive reflex was to retreat, to shrink, to choose who would still be entitled to the network. He gradually discovers a darker landscape. An extremely efficient country, yes, but one that rests on a far more fragile balance than he had imagined. A model in which a few decision points, a few teams like his, can, in a few lines of code, tip from the promise of openness into a siege mentality. He reads, in the strategic documents piling up after the attack, the words international cooperation, doctrine, defense. He sees specialized centers being created, legal manuals, cyber defense exercises. It should reassure him. It only strengthens the feeling that his country has now become a textbook case, an observed laboratory, a living warning. One evening, he is invited to a meeting with young engineers just hired. He is asked to tell them what it was like in 2007. The questions revolve around technical aspects, traffic volumes, types of botnets. They want figures, good reflexes, lessons learned. Marco answers, explains in detail, shows graphs. But he cannot manage to convey what, for him, truly changed. He tries to explain that moment when he realized that the line between inside and outside no longer ran along physical borders, but through the filters he configured at the keyboard. The faces in front of him remain focused, serious, but distant. For them, it is already history. Later, when he gets home, he thinks back to what he, too, has accepted without really questioning it. The idea that his country's security could rest on technical solutions, redundancies, manuals, agreements. The idea that an attack of this scale could be absorbed by improving firewalls, signing more cooperation agreements, writing more precise rules on what is or is not an online act of war. What he discovers instead is that the real vulnerability remains human and political. that no system can avoid the moment when someone, somewhere, will have to decide to cut off the flow to a neighbor, to a partner, to an entire segment of the population. That dependence on digital technology does not disappear with resilience. It buries itself deeper. With each new layer of security, with each new online service, he feels this tension grow stronger rather than ease. As he closes his laptop a little earlier than usual, a thought stops him short. What if, next time, it wasn't just the websites and the payments, but the data itself, the identities, the records? What if the problem wasn't that you could switch a country off, but that you could rewrite what it is? And then, a question, simple and brutal, crosses his mind. How long can a country still claim to exist if a few lines of code, somewhere, are enough to silence it or reshape it without a single shot being fired? In the dim light of the server room, Marco stops in front of a silent rack, a chipped fingernail caught on the metal. A strip of yellowed tape still marks the spot of a machine replaced after the attack, without a label. On the control screen, graphs scroll by calmly, thin green lines perfectly aligned. In the distance, through a small curtainless window, you can see a patch of pale sky and the tiny silhouette of an antenna. An empty cardboard cup rests on a console, holding only a bit of cold coffee and a few fingerprints.